श्री रामचंद्र चरणौ मनसा स्मरामि, श्री रामचंद्र चरणौ वचसा गृह्णामि, श्री रामचंद्र चरणौ शिरसा नमामि, श्री रामचंद्र चरणौ शरणं प्रपद्ये. The topic of my lecture is Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, a work of everlasting relevant philosophy. According to our traditional arrangement, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad belongs to the Shukla Yajurveda. So, I will start my discourse with the Shanti Patha, peace invocation of the Yajurveda. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. First of all, my pranam to my alma mater, the Mumbai University. Respected professors, Dr. Shakuntala ji, respected Professor Dr. Madhvi ji, respected members of the Department of Sanskrit of the University of Mumbai, and Abhirupa Bhuishtha Parishad, who is listening to this discourse. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad occupies a very unique position among the Upanishadic literature. It is one of the most substantial Upanishads from the Iyatta and Gunavatta point of view. It is one of the bulkiest Upanishads. Another remarkable thing about this Upanishad is that it incorporates in itself the central teachings of all the principal Upanishads. This trait makes it a unique Upanishad in the whole of the Upanishadic lore. This Upanishad belongs to a hoary past. Scholars assign about 800 BCE to this Upanishad. So, one can legitimately have a doubt about its being relevant today. What Walt Whitman, the American poet, has said about the Upanishads in general is more applicable to this Upanishad. He has said that the Upanishads, though remote in time from us, are not remote in thought. So the Upanishads in general and this Upanishad in particular is as relevant today as it was when it was composed. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad is regarded as the crowning achievement of the Vedic literature. In this discourse of short duration, we would take up one or two points from this Upanishad to establish its relevance even in the modern world. We feel that the Upanishad is speaking to modern man. Some passages containing profound thoughts appear so fresh that the almost thinks of it as content of a motivational speaker, a new species product of the modern age. The Upanishad says, Sa yatha kamo bhavati tat kraturbhavati yat kraturbhavati tat karma kurute yat karma kurute tad abhisampadhyate. That these three sentences show stages of a sort of causation. A person is made not of acts but of desires only. As is his desire, such is his resolve. As is his resolve, such actions he performs. That action he performs, that he attains for himself. Now, if we decode it further in a more palatable form, it would amount to this formula. Watch your thoughts, for they become words. Watch your words, for they become actions. Watch your actions, for they become habits. Watch your habits, for they become character. Watch your character, for they become destiny. Yat karma kurute, tat abhisampadhyate. Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan quotes a parallel thought from Plato. Plato says, I quote, such as are the trend of our desires and the nature of our souls, just such each of us becomes. This thought of the Upanishad is stuck in a corner of a bigger passage that it almost escapes the notice of a reader. One more passage we may take up, which is justly famous in the Vedantic laws. It is a Yajnyavalkya Maitreyi dialogue, which may be regarded as one of the peaks of the mountain range of the philosophy of the Upanishads. As we all know, there is a frame story. Yajnyavalkya is about to renounce the world to become a mendicant, and he tells Maitreyi, one of his two wives, that he would divide property between Maitreyi and Katyayani, another wife. Then Maitreyi says, Yannumayam bhago sarva pruthivi vittena purnasyat katham tena amrutasyam. O Venerable One, this whole world with all its wealth were mine. Could I become immortal thereby? It is one of the most beautiful and elevating dialogues ever taken place between a couple of husband and wife. Yajnavalkya said, no, like the wife of a wealthy man, your life would become. Yatha eva upakarnavatam jivitam tatha eva te jivitam syat. Here we feel that Yajnavalkya is addressing us. Yajnavalkya further says, Amrutatvasya tu na asha asti vittena. There is no hope of obtaining immortality. Then Maitreyi said, those imperishable words which ring in our ears after even so many centuries. She says, Yena aham na amrutasyam, kim aham tena kuryam. Of what use it would be if I do not become thereby immortal. Then Yajnavalkya gives a long sermon of profound philosophical significance, and a part of this sermon, according to me, is very important for day-to-day mundane life. Navare patyuh kamaya patihi priya bhavati, atmanastu kamaya patihi priya bhavati. Navare jayaya kamaya jaya priya bhavati, atmanastu kamaya jaya priya bhavati. Verily, not for the sake of husband is husband dear to one, but for the sake of the Atman, self, is husband dear. Verily, not for the sake of wife is wife dear to one, but for the sake of the Atman, self, is wife dear. And thus, Yajnavalkya goes on to address his wife Maitreyi. At the end, he says, Navare sarvasya kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati, atmanastu kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati. Verily, not for the sake of all is dear, but for the sake of the Atman, self, is all dear. This passage explains the root cause of our love. Atma, as Shankaracharya has explained, Atma eva priyaha na anyat. Tasmat Atma priti sadhanatvat gauni अन्यत्र प्रीतिः आत्मनि एव मुख्या. Self is dear, not anything else. As it being an instrument of love of Atman, it is secondary. The main rests in Atman. Raghavacharya explains that, I quote, the desiring agent, the subject that desires, is the point under discussion. The Atman alone has to be loved. All of the things are loved for the sake of the Atman. I unquote. There is no disagreement about this interpretation. But in addition to this interpretation, this passage lends itself to another explanation which is relevant in our day-to-day life. This passage can be explained from the ethical point of view. Atmanastu kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati. This great sentence, though not acknowledged as the Mahavakya, the great sentence, traditionally it is no less profound than the traditionally known Mahavakyas. This sentence, Atmanastu kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati, provides a touchstone to all our activities, that is mundane and otherwise. This should make us introspect ourselves that whatever we do should be dear to the Atman. First of all, Atma should enjoy that activity. Unless that happens, all our activities would be a sham, hypocrisy. If I love somebody, I am not obliging that person, but I myself enjoy loving that person. If I indulge in social reforms activity, it should make me happy. It should make my Atman happy in doing the social activities. So, in all our activities, mundane or spiritual, our Atma should feel happy doing so. There should be an internal inevitability about performing such humdrum or social or political or any other activities. If I am giving a lecture here, I am not obliging anybody. First and foremost, I should feel delighted in doing so. My Atma exults in performing so, and hence I perform such activities. I know that traditionally there is no such interpretation put forth by our past acharyas, thinkers or commentators. Shankaracharya has not provided any inkling about such interpretation on an ethical plane. My interpretation is on an ethical plane. Modern scholars also have mostly followed the commentators of the past, or they have made some cosmetic changes here and there in their interpretation. I sometimes add in the manner of this Upanishad, which may be viewed in the light of my this interpretation. Navare sahityasya kamaya sahityam priyam bhavati atmanastu kamaya sahityam priyam bhavati navare vidyayai kamaya vidya priyam bhavati atmanastu kamaya vidya priyam bhavati navare व्याख्यानस्य कामाय व्याख्यानं प्रियं भवति आत्मनस्तु कामाय व्याख्यानं प्रियं भवति. And in the manner of this Upanishad, नवारे सर्वस्य कामाय सर्वं प्रियं भवति आत्मनस्तु कामाय सर्वं प्रियं भवति. Verily, not for the sake of literature, literature is dear to us, but for the sake of the Atman, literature is dear to us. Verily, not for the sake of learning, learning is dear to us, but for the sake of the Atman, learning is dear to us. Verily, not for the sake of a lecture. Lecture is dear to us, but for the sake of the Atman, a lecture is dear to us. Verily, not for the sake of all. All is dear to us, but for the sake of the Atman, all is dear to us. This passage, just discussed, has a very subtle kind of relevance. But now, the Akhyayika, we can call it a parable, which I am going to narrate, has an explicit morality message. But the Akhyayika is delightful. The parable of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad runs thus. Prajapati had threefold progenies of gods, men, and demons. They stayed with their father Prajapati as students. At the end of their studies, they turn by turn requested their father teacher to instruct them about their duty. Prajapati spoke to the gods a monosyllable the and asked them what they had understood. Gods told Prajapati, "You said to us, Damyata, restrain yourselves." Prajapati consented by uttering Om. Then Prajapati told the same syllable, the, to men and asked what they had understood. Man told Prajapati, "You told us Datta, donate." Then to demons also, Prajapati said, the. The demons said to Prajapati, "You told us to be compassionate, dayadvam." This parable is very significant in the sense that first of all, these progenies, that is, gods, man, and demons, had the same father, thereby suggesting that a person may have different virtues or qualities according to the circumstances and nature. So it is suggested that a man may be a god and a demon also. So a man may be a god, a demon, and continue to be a man also. These threefold offsprings learnt different lessons according to their nature from the same teaching. Shankaracharya has brought out this in a very pointed manner in this commentary. Gods understood the meaning of the in the sense of damyata, restrained, as they were unrestrained in their behavior. Shankaracharya writes, Adantayuyam svabhavatah ato danta bhavata, as you are unrestrained in your nature, you be restrained. Man understood the meaning of the in the sense of datta, donate, as svabhavato lubdha ato yathashakti samvibhajata datta, as you are greedy by nature, you donate according to your capacity. Here it may be noted that Vinoba Bhave has called the dana, donation, as samvibhaga. He has taken that word from this samvibhajate of the Upanishad. And demons understood the meaning of the in the sense of dayadva. Be compassionate, as krurayam hinsadi paraha, Ataha dayadvam pranishu dayam kuruta. As you are given to violence, you have compassion upon the beings. Have pity on them. So, damana, dana, daya, all these three virtues are derived from the uttered by Prajapati while teaching to gods, men and demons. So these three virtues are to be inculcated by humanity. Thus the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says. At the end of this parable, the Rishi, the sage, displays an extraordinary creativity. These three virtues, the, are uttered by the divine speech when the clouds thunder. The, damyata, datta, dayadvam. So when the clouds thunder, this Rishi says that these clouds speak the divine speech of the Namyata datta dayadvam, Namyata datta dayadvam, Namyata datta dayadvam. So you can hear this speech, divine speech of the clouds. As some of us are aware that this parable was employed by the Nobel laureate poet T.S. Eliot of the last century in his Wasteland poem. He utilized the parable by giving it the title, What the Thundering of the Clouds Said. This incident establishes the relevance of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad beyond any doubt. We know that recently, when our beloved Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited USA, he gifted the volume of Upanishads to Biden, the President of USA. Our Prime Minister does nothing which is not meaningful and relevant. So this also illustrates that Upanishads are there forever relevant. Then there is one Indologist, Juan Mascaro, a Polish scholar, who has given us a memorable quotation about the Upanishads. He has described the Upanishads as the Himalayas of the soul. We know that Himalaya is a sort of a soul of India. Even Kalidas has said that Himalaya is a Devatatma. The mountain Himalaya nourished and enriched our culture. We cannot imagine India without the mountain Himalaya. Similarly, Upanishads are the Himalayas of the soul. Upanishads would nourish and enrich the soul of mankind. As the Himalaya is there, the Upanishads are also there. As Himalaya is relevant, so the Upanishads are also very much relevant in the modern day. Some years back, a lady from Gujarat established a record of staying in space in the Sputnik for 192 days. 192 days. 192 days. She has described her experience of staying in space for such a long time. Her name is Sunita Williams. She is an American citizen, but originally from Gujarat. While going to space, she had taken some books along with her. She carried the Upanishads with her. In her cabin in the space, on the door was a big Om card. She muses that during her stay, she often thought about the meaning of the life and activity she is performing. She considered that she would try to find the answer from the Upanishads. So this incident also establishes the relevance of the Upanishads. All the modern studies of the Upanishads start with Schopenhauer, a famous German philosopher whose utterances about Upanishads are well known. It is said about him that he always used to keep Upanishads and the Srimad Bhagavad Gita on his table. Before going to his bed, he would read some portions from the Upanishads. He always he was very much influenced by the Upanishads. He had a pet dog whose name he had given as Atman. He says that the Upanishads are the solace of my life and would be the solace of my death. He further says the study of the Upanishads is most rewarding and most elevating. And after saying this, he writes in the bracket that Upanishads are most elevating, accepting the Upanishads in original. So he was very much aware that he was reading the Upanishads in translation and not in original Sanskrit. He further says that Upanishads are destined to be the prayer of mankind sooner or later. If there is an anthology of prayers for the mankind is to be made, then the major part of that anthology would be from the Upanishads. Asato ma sadgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityor ma amritam gamaya. O God, lead me from the falsehood to death, falsehood to truth. O God, lead me from darkness to light. O God, lead me from death to immortality. These three sentences are the worthiest to be the prayer of mankind. And this prayer is from the Upanishad, as we know. So, the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad has much to contribute to the life of a modern man. We know that Upanishads brought about a sea change in the ancient Indian spiritual life. They are said to have brought about 3 R's, R's, in the manner of 3 R's in a man's life. It is said that a man should learn 3 R's at least, if nothing more. These 3 R's in a man's life is arithmetic, writing, and reading. Similarly, Upanishads contain 3 R's in themselves in the context of the ancient Indian spiritual life. These 3 R's are revelation, renaissance, and rebellion. Upanishads are regarded as Shruti, revelation. Upanishads are regarded as renaissance, and they brought about new life, new vision, new energy to the spiritual life of India. And Upanishads are also a rebellion. They rebelled against the ritualism of the Vedas. So, in this way, Upanishads are 3 R's: revelation, renaissance, and rebellion. About rebellion, we may take one passage from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. The Upanishad is dealing with the state of Brahman realization, and the Rishi described that state. Atra pita apita bhavati, mata amata, loka aloka, deva adeva, veda avedaha. Atra stenaha astenaha bhavati, brunaha abrunaha, chandalaha achandalaha, paulkasaha apaulkasaha, and so on. It is such a state where father is not a father, a mother is not a mother, words are not the words, the gods are not the gods, there a thief is not a thief, the murderer is not a murderer, a chandala is not a chandala, a paulkasa is not a paulkasa, and so on. There it is said The Vedas are not the Vedas. Vedaha avedaha bhavanti. This spirit of rebellion worth imbibing even in the present times. In those days when Vedas were held very highly, and to say that Vedas are no Vedas is a very stout rebel spirit. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad teaches us this also. The whole of the Upanishad is very relevant. It will get more and more relevant as times pass. We refer to T.S. Eliot above. He pens very profound, thought-provoking lines. He says, I quote with slight modification, where is knowledge which is lost in information? Where is wisdom which is lost in knowledge? And I add, where is realization which is lost in wisdom? This last line is not penned by T.S. Eliot. I have added this line. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad teaches us to realize Brahman. That is why it says Anyat Artam. Everything except realization is painful. Thank you very much. Pranam to all.